my mower. I've had it for years. And once I wore out the 21 horsepower, when I got it, the 21 horsepower engine had a hole in it. So I go ahead and patch the hole in the crankcase, put new rods, pistons in it, used it for years. I last wore it out. I never liked that engine. And I had an engine that I liked. So I went ahead and put this engine in it. It's been great. These engines are great. These opposed twins. And the engine runs great. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how I figured out it probably wasn't a relay. But the relay, factory mounted, behind here. I'm hoping the wires are long enough that I can pull it out where we can look at it. You know, it's going to be dark. Let me get out of this light. These two bolts right here on the back side of this, there's a relay. I'll pull it out the best I can and you can take a look at it. It's just two bolts, 1/4 inch bolts, 7/16. Some mowers, they'll be sticking right out here where you can look at them. I wish this was one of them, but it isn't. That's just the way they were in the factory. And when I changed the engine, that relay was in there, and I just wired it right to this engine. So anyway, here we go. Hey, let me move you around here. Look at it. You might be able to see what I'm doing. I don't know. I'm not going to unhook the battery right now because I want to have power on it so I can test it and make sure that I wasn't dreaming out there in the sun. And I'm going to check and see if the signal's coming down to it. Pretty sure it's not. It'd be great if it was just a relay, but I don't think it is. Get away from there, cat. Alright, I'm going to move you around, so hang on. Oh, the wires are tight. There's the relay right there. See, it's got a cover on it, so I don't have to worry about it shorting out. Now on the back, you see one wire going to it. That should be the hot wire telling this relay to work. So if I jump her to that wire, and this is grounded, get it down here where I can work with it. Put a ground wire on it, and we'll see. This wire should be hot all the time. This wire, the one going to the starter, there's a switch in there, and when this gets, there's a little coil in here, you'll close it, and then both of these would be hot, and then the starter should be running. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take a hot wire. First I'm going to take a wire and jumper this to something, to the frame, so that it's got a ground. And then I'm going to take a wire from here and go up to the hot on this and jump it and see if we get power. That's how I'll test this relay. Okay, so I'm going to use a green wire. I'm just going to clip it onto the frame of the relay. That's what the bolts normally would do. And now I'm just going to hook onto this wire, the one that normally would come from me sitting in there trying to turn it on. The motor might start, so I don't think it will. Turn off the gas. But I'm going to go ahead and set the brake anyway. Okay, it's in neutral. I'm going to pull this little cover off here. This wire goes directly to the battery. Notice this is a really light. This is a real light wire. This is the reason we have these relays, because this wire, think of this as the switch. If you didn't have a relay, you'd have to have a switch as strong as this relay. Clear up here, it'd be gigantic. So this really just takes a little signal, very low amperage, and then this thing can handle the amperage, but this wire couldn't. If I jumped this wire right across, I'd just burn this wire in two trying to start this thing. So if the relay works, if the relay is good, I should be able to hit that button and the motor should crank over. I'm just going to do it for a second. Ready? So we know the relay works. Okay? That's how you can prove whether or not the relay is good. So the relay is good. I have to trace this white wire back through its labyrinth of safeties and figure out what is wrong with this thing. Or I can take a wild guess, and that's just what it'll be, is a guess, and look at the clutch switch. And that's probably what I'm going to do. And that sounds wrong, doesn't it? But it's going to take me a long time to trace this white wire to all these different things. The reason I'm going with a clutch switch, for one thing, just from working on mowers for years, those things are just, they just wear out because it's mechanical. And they're not very expensive switches. So now I got to figure out where it's at. So that's my first move. But I'm going to go ahead and put this back on here. I know that it's not that. Make sure I cover it all up so I don't short anything out. I'm going to go ahead and put this cover back on here. And I'm just going to mount it right back where it was. We know it's good. No reason to change it. However it's mounted, most relays nowadays are just have they're internally grounded to wherever it's bolted to. So you want to make sure that it's got a good ground. Tighten up the bolts, not super tight, but make sure they're tight. And there you go. I've mounted it back in there, bolted it up. So now I'm going to go ahead and see if I can figure out where, if I can get to the clutch switch. There's got to be one on here somewhere. Can't say that I've ever seen it. I'm going to go ahead and lower the blade all the way down. And I'll look under it. If I find it, I'll show it to you if I can. Go ahead and pull this battery out of here so I can see down underneath it. The wires go down, so just to make it easier for me to see and to film, I'm going to go ahead and pull it. And everybody knows how to pull a battery. So critics here today. I got the battery pulled and I still can't see down there very well, so I'm going to go ahead and pull the box out. I think it's just these two bolts right there, and then we can get down to business, I hope. While the battery was out, I went ahead and put it on my charger. I just put it on a few seconds ago. As you can see, it was charged. I'm going to put it on trickle just for the heck of it. Keep it charged up. Okay, so now I got the battery box. Whoops. Now I have the battery box out. And I'll shine down here and see what you can see. See a lot of dirt. There's the relay that I put back in, see it? And I'm looking for any broken wires or anything. And then something I forgot to think about was the fuse. God, it was funny if that was all it was. Forgot the fuse was in here. I'm going to go ahead and pull it out of there and check it just for the hell of it. See it right there? Remember when I was listing all the things, I didn't think about the fuse. I'm going to go ahead and test this fuse. I found it. Even though you can look in that little glass and look for a burn, it's obvious when they're burnt usually, but not always. I'm going to hook one lead of this. Let's see here. I'm going to hook the positive lead to my test light over here. See what I'm doing? I'm just putting the negative side. Doesn't matter. Either way, a fuse is a fuse. Fuse is just a wire that burns up easy. And I'm going to see if it'll light that light. It does light the light, so the fuse is good. Even though I got a dirty connection here. So I'm going to go ahead and clean off a connection, but I'm sure that's not what it is. Off. So let's go under it and see what's under here. Try to get a picture. See it right there? I don't know if you can or not, but anyway, I probably had my hand resting on it when I was taking off the relay. It was right there. Huh. Stuck it right there. So I'm going to crawl out from under here and check it out on top. It's going to be, you're going to go upside down. It's sitting pretty good. Underneath this big ball of wires. You see it right here? I didn't see that. Even though I vacuumed it out and everything. It's right there. Okay, so that's your clutch switch. Oh my lord. I can't believe I missed it. But I did. Okay, so now you can see I pushed the switch down from the top. But it's pushing on the actuator. Rather than have a dedicated actuator, they use some of the linkage that was here. And the switch is big enough that it wants to touch right here. So some way, and the arm only goes back and forth that much. And to keep it from moving too far, rather than they put a roll pin, it looks like, in here. So if I can get that roll pin out, maybe I can move it over enough to get the switch to drop down through the bottom, which is the way it's supposed to go. I don't know if you can see how I'm doing this, but I can't get behind it and hit it with a punch, so I'm taking my vice grips and just slowly working it at an angle. Getting it down. It's moved a little bit. Once I get it as far as I can, then I'll try to get a hold of it with some dikes. Alright, this is the switch. I got it out. That roll pin just killed me. Ended up having to take a cold chisel and gash part of it and push it out with that. But anyway, got it out. I'm going to replace it with a cotter pin. So now I've got to find this switch. I don't have one in stock. So I'm going to write down all these numbers. Look it up on my computer. I'll even show you how you do that. And we'll find out what the switch number is. Well, there it is, folks. Actually, I just put in the model number rather than anything else. Model number in Husqvarna. It took me to Amazon.com, and lo and behold, there it is. 22 bucks, which includes shipping. Here's the old one. Look at that. It's a normally open, it's got one normally open and normally closed switch in it. So I'm sure they made it like that so you couldn't defeat it by just jumpering it. Yeah. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, I did a little digging. I thought that was kind of steep for a switch. And I realized that they were, I don't know what the heck they were trying to do, but anyway, for $10.94, I can get the very same switch. And this is a Stens number 430702. And I looked at the comments, reviews, everything's fine. So there we go. Click on that and you get a brand new switch. Okay, I hooked up my, I got a red wire going to positive on a battery under my switch. Then the other side of the switch, across the narrow area, comes around through this little light, 12-volt light. And on the other side of the 12-volt light, I got to go in a negative. So if I close this to the opposite side, you see the light's on. And when you push it on the clutch, boom, it opens it up. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and put this switch in and see if everything works. And you see I've got my mower up in the air after I did that to pull the deck and also to work under there. So I'm going to go under there and I remember that this thing right here was out where I could get to it back under there. So that's the way I'm going to put it in. I don't think it makes any difference, but it just makes it easier if I have to take it back off again. So here goes nothing. Turn on some light here. All I'm going to do is shove it up through. It just goes up in there and pinches these things and pops in there. We know that once it's in there, it can't come out because you have to move that rod. All right, here we go. Okay, there's the hole it goes in. My rod is still pushed out of the way, so I'm just going to push it up in there. I can't do it with one hand, so here we go. I'm going to have to shut you off for a minute. It's amazing how much easier things go in than out. It's designed to go in and stay in. And it goes in real easy. So now I got to put this all back together under here and make sure that it does make that switch. In other words, touches the switch when you push on the clutch. Okay, so I just put a cotter pin in there instead of a roll pin. I'm not going to fight that ever again in my life. And I made sure that the linkage still pushes on the switch. So now I'm just going to, rather than put all the battery and everything back together, I'm going to hook up my little jumper box to the leads and just make sure it turns over. Okay, I got the switch plugged in. I hooked up my little jumper box here. Red to positive, negative. Just make sure it doesn't touch anything metal. A hot one. Now I'm going to push it on the clutch. And first I'm going to make sure it won't start without the clutch in. And then I'm going to make sure it will start with it in. Or start. Try to start. I know it'll start once I... Anyway, you know what I mean. Turn over. So, first I'm going to turn the key. Nothing. I'm going to push down on it. Alright. Now it's just a matter of putting it all back together. So I got the battery and box back in, the battery hooked back up. Just for grins, I'm going to try it again. Then I'll try it with it out. Nope. Good deal. Just for my next, for any other troubleshooting, I'm going to try this. I'm going to turn on the blade and see it doesn't try. But then, if I turn off the blade, that's how it works. So the blade switch could stop it also. That would have probably been my next move. But for sure, it's called an interlock switch. Forever free.
Sometimes you need to go and take a step back